following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Good evening and welcome to Sudden Impact Radio right here on Blog Talk Radio. The man they call Meathead, Matthew Thomas, joining you right as Impact is going off the air. The Stinger, the Hulkster, what is he holding? Is that like a butter knife? Matthew, is he holding a butter knife? Were they just having toast on the way back?
Well, they were at the clubhouse, and as is the case with any clubhouse, you've got to have some refreshments and hors d'oeuvres and whatnot. So apparently it was a butter knife left over from the festivities.
Either that or it was something to spread a little schmear on a bagel.
There you go.
Because they had them over. You're right. Folks, welcome to Sudden Impact Radio on Blog Talk Radio as we see the Hulkster and the Stinger both untying each other after a little S&M trip over to the clubhouse for aces and eights. Impact running a little long tonight. Again, something that we've talked about on this program for going on a year now. Production stuff, just they don't have a groove yet. But we are going to talk about everything Impact tonight. Plus, if you want to talk to the program, call in and interact with us. The numbers, 347-996-5278 or toll free at 877-317-9772. Give us a call. Call right now. Make sure you ask for your parents' permission. Wasn't that Mean Gene that used to do that?
I believe
Get your parents' permission. 900-909-9900. Ha! Sorry.
Got to call the hotline.
That's not Gaming's Gimmick. It was ours. We've done it for years, but used to love that. Also, if you want to interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag Sudden Impact Radio, you got a chance to have your tweet read on the air. Matthew, how did you think Impact went over tonight? And again, we'll go into detail, but give me a quick rundown. What did you think of Impact overall?
I will say that I am actually a little less excited for Bound for Glory than I was 1 week ago at this time.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. You and I just talked right before we went on the air here at Sudden Impact Studios, and I said, feeling a little flat. But let us not discourage you from this recap that we call Sudden Impact Radio. Now, the main story, the main thread that's still going on, and you've got multiple threads that are running on the program, but the main thread is Aces and Eights interaction with Hulk Hogan. Stinger's back, so he's on the side of Hogan, at least today he is. And they've got Joseph Park, and they've got him at the clubhouse, and apparently he's been held captive. Now, excuse me, last week when they took the ball-peen hammer to the back of Joseph Park's head, apparently Abyss, Joseph Park, whatever you want, this is something we didn't catch right away, but I caught in the replays today. He didn't have his teeth in. Did you notice that? So was that Joseph Park or was it Abyss?
Who knows at this point?
So, is that part storyline or is it just a production goof-up?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to say. I still think that Park or Abyss, whatever you want to call him, plays a pivotal role when Aces and Eights is finally revealed, when we finally get the payoff. I think he's actually going to play a crucial role in it in some capacity.
Any idea of what capacity to be, on the side of Aces and Eight or on the side of TNA?
No, I think he's going to be, there's some way they're going to swing it as he's one of the masterminds behind it because, this Joseph Park Abyss thing has been going on for quite a while, and we've never gotten the payoff to that storyline. So, I don't know, just a hunch. I think that when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the pivotal aces and or eights, if you will.
He might be all sixes and sevens. Is that what he's going to be? Part of aces? That was a Austin Powers reference. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Myers. So, yeah, that you're right when you bring that up. That we haven't had the payoff from that. Now TNA, like WCW say back in the day, and like WWE in recent years, big angles that they don't give us a payoff for, and then out of nowhere, just finally, poof, payoff. I'll give you an example from the E, and I'll give you an example from TNA and from WCW. WWE, out of nowhere, the Raw general manager, the anonymous Raw general manager, ends up being Hornswoggle from under the ring. Right? We had forgotten about it. We just, accepted it, moved on, and out of nowhere, here comes the little dwarf from underneath the ring. TNA. What about the ninjas that kidnapped Taz just out of nowhere? Oh yeah, that's right. Kidnapped Samoa Joe. I apologize.
Yeah,
and then Taz shows up with them. Yeah.
And did you notice the van that Aces and Eights were using tonight? The white van. See, I thought that was a little call back to that whole storyline. So maybe Bound for Glory, it does come full circle, and they were in on the Samoa Joe kidnapping, huh?
Quite possibly. That could be part of it, but that would also lead us to believe that Taz is a part of that, because remember, Taz is the one that brought Joe back.
True.
So wouldn't Taz be, unless Taz kidnapped him from Aces and Eights and then brought him back and put him under his Taz mission, mental lockdown, a mental submission hold. Who knows?
Long-term booking at its best, a 3-year angle, I'm telling you.
And they knew it all along. Through all the booking committees, they knew it all along.
There's a hint of sarcasm in those comments, by the way.
Right. Sarcastable? Is that what you were talking about?
Little bit there. Little bit.
Little bit, yeah. Don't go too sarcastic for too long, because it'll affect your brain. So the other thing that we saw tonight, which is kind of a callback, and we were promised a TV title match tonight. We were promised a TV champion tonight was going to be on the air, and I guess that's what we can pull away tonight. We finally got them to admit that the reason we haven't had a TV champion on the air is because the TV champion's contract negotiations with the company weren't going so well. So, Devon, thank you very much. They even put him over in the program tonight. But Devon, thank you very much, and we got to go. We got to move on.
And I was glad to see them acknowledge that too, instead of just try to gloss over it in some capacity. They acknowledged it and set up a match tonight for the TV title, and hopefully we'll move on from there.
Yeah. So definitely taking away tonight. We're talking still Aces and Eights, and folks, even if say you're upset about it, Aces and Eights is the conversation right now. We're going into Bound for Glory. It's Aces and Eights. It's the main event matches, and it's what's going on with Abyss as far as in the Aces and Eights and the TV Championship. So that's what you're pulling away from tonight. Let's run down the matches tonight as we talk about Impact from September. What is today? The 27th. September 27th already, man. We are in fall. In fall.
Crazy.
Already. Can you believe that? Craziness, indeed. Let's talk about the matches, though. And the show opened up, of course, as we just mentioned, with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, talking about the contract negotiations. He's handling business. And he says, you know what? We got to move on. He was a good champion, but we need a champion. So he's going to do the, what do they call it, Championship Thursday? So let me get this straight. We've got open fight night, and then always the week after, we have Championship Thursday. Does that sound right?
That sounds like what they're going with.
Okay, because, again, if we're calling it now, and that's what they're saying, then we want consistency. Let me see you next month and see if you follow up with Open Fight Night, which includes a gut check match, and then the following week, Championship Thursday, which includes a gut check, who's getting the rose ceremony in the ring with Al, Taz, and Bruce Pritchard. So,
and don't forget a TV title match each week, too.
Yeah, well, that's what we're supposed to get. I mean, we're going to get it, but that's what we're supposed to get. So when Hogan comes down to the ring with his baseball bat, he gets all the way through all the gimmicks and talks about what's going on also with James Storm and Bobby Roode. He says it's a huge mess, and to be honest, let's just make it a match at Bound for Glory. I know you tweeted this out earlier, Matthew. I'm going to have you reiterate it again for our audience online here and for everybody listening on YouTube and Blog Talk, also on iTunes. This is a match, this is a feud that's really been built for a year, since last year's Bound for Glory, where James Storm won the belt, and then Bobby Roode cheated him for it, and then Bobby Roode had his amazing run. Why do we need a stipulation in a match between James Storm and Bobby Roode?
That's exactly my question. Why do we need the street fight stipulation to begin with? And I honestly felt like, as we discussed last week, Meathead, on this very program, I felt like we got the street fight last week. And we were talking about, did we feel like that they gave something away last week? that we should have gotten off the pay-per-view, and we both pretty much agreed that they didn't because the dynamics that it was given with the match taking place mostly outside the ring, and at least with Bobby Roode in his street clothes, it was more of a street fight. Okay, give us the street fight on the TV show and then save the actual match for the pay-per-view. Well, we learned tonight that the match has a stipulation. It's not only a street fight, but we've got a special enforcer, which I feel is like a gimmick on top of a gimmick in a match that already has a good story that you're already invested in and want to see the payoff. And I really feel like if you want to throw a special enforcer in there, you put it in a match that doesn't already have that much interest or that much build. You don't put it in the match that people are already invested in.
Right, and exactly. It's again, I hate to compare apples to, say, cars, but it's like a certain other company that seemed to have done that at WrestleMania, added a gimmick on top of a gimmick on top of a gimmick. Example, the undefeated streak versus I want to end your streak and I need to be the one to beat you versus WrestleMania versus, let's add Shawn Michaels in there as well. Way too much added on top of it. You didn't need any of it. Let them go one-on-one, and that will tell the story, the entire story. So,
absolutely,
I understand they needed a...
At least in that example, Meathead, you've got Shawn Michaels, who, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense for him being involved. Here you're just throwing King Mo in there that up until this point, has no part in this story arc whatsoever.
Zero. And as I was about to say, you're absolutely correct. I know they had to work King Mo into the pay-per-view somehow. They need to introduce him somehow. But this is the wrong match. Absolutely wrong match. Have him, come out and be the host of Bound for Glory. Do something. But why is he in this match? Is it going to get that down? Is it going to get that dirty between Bobby Roode and James Storm that they need an MMA enforcer? No, it's going to be a heated contest between the two, but one that'll be fine. I mean, these guys aren't going to be so dastardly, so evil, so mean that we need an enforcer. It's ridiculous. So, but anyways, Hogan sets it up for us. King Mo is going to be the special enforcer for the match at Bound for Glory, which is a street fight again. And Hogan turned his attention to Aces and Eights, and he said he's going to go to their clubhouse. I like the acknowledgement of Hogan. How was he getting there? Again, when you're talking about things like this, tiny little details. How are you going to get there? Well, obviously we had to come get you. We're not going to give you the GPS directions to it. I thought that was very clever when Aces and Eights dropped that in there. So,
yes, I enjoyed it. And on the topic of the clubhouse, for a vicious gang such as Aces and Eights, could they not have like another name, like their lair or their hangout or something? When I think clubhouse, I think of going to the country club, shooting a little bit of pool, having some appetizers and whatnot. Clubhouse. It really doesn't connotate that nasty underground hangout that this vicious motorcycle gang would be at.
Right, you're right, and for those that wouldn't know about motorcycle gangs or are not Son of Anarchy fans, they would think the same thing. But if you do know about bike gangs and do know about Sons of Anarchy, they actually do refer to it as a clubhouse, so that's why they're using the term clubhouse. It makes sense. It still doesn't invoke fear at all. Hey, it sounds like, hey, come on down to Aces and Eights Pee-wee's clubhouse. Or it sounds like, come down to Uncle Dan's Pee-wee's clubhouse, or your Uncle Dan's clubhouse. It doesn't.
I'm a little behind on my bike gang lingo for all our listeners out there, so I do apologize for the ignorance in that capacity.
Go to Wiki, type in bike gang lingo. I'm pretty sure there's a page on it.
do some research here.
Yeah, we see a shot of Mr. Anderson, obviously sharing his favorite Bound for Glory moment, and it was in 2010. I'm a big fan of Ken Anderson. We consider him a friend of the program. But again, there's another person that I don't necessarily want to hear about your greatest Bound for Glory memories because you've only been in company for a couple years. You should be talking about the other guys that have been around forever, about what it really means, because you can't really speak on it if you've only put in one or two shows. Opening match was Kurt Angle, Chavo Guerrero, and Christopher Daniels, which is a triple threat match. Great action. I thought it was great action, and Daniels shoved Guerrero into Angle, and he took down Guerrero with a STO to pick up the pinfall victory. What did you think of the in-ring action out of these three? It was kind of an odd pairing, but still good on-screen action.
It was, and I thought they pulled it off very well. One thing that really dawned on me during the course of this match with Angle, Chavo, and Christopher Daniels is you've got some talent in that ring. Those are three very talented competitors, and I'm glad they did this. I hope next week you would think it would make sense to give us the other three competitors in the three-way tag match to get them in front of us in the weeks leading up to Bound for Glory, kind of whet our appetite for that three-way tag match. And really, not that we don't have familiarity with these guys, but put them on TV every week leading up to Bound for Glory so we can get familiarized with the match that's going to take place and just get excited for it.
Yeah, and you're right. And long story short, just reintroduce them to us again. Make us, very aware of who they are and what they do. So they go after that, and we see Hogan in the office with Samoa Joe, Anderson, Magnus, and Garrett Bischoff. Ladies and gentlemen, Garrett Bischoff is in the Final Four for a shot at the TV title. I'm telling you, shiver went down my spine.
Oh.
And I went down every other wrestling fan's spine. That was a window right there. That was the window for Garrett Bischoff to get in. But, they talk to the four, and he instantly eliminates Magnus. He called him, he says, I don't need another girlfriend. I couldn't afford the last one. I don't know what that means. But, Garrett Bischoff, Anderson, and Samoa Joe are left to fight out for a spot to get the TV title. Brooke Hogan also meeting up with Tara in the backstage, but Tara blowing her off to take a phone call from her Hollywood boyfriend. And a little reference to George and Stacy. Stacy, former wrestler. Tara knows who she is. Maybe she thinks she can get into the in crowd and hang out with George Clooney and, Stacy Keibler. Just a little weird setup. But, Brooke Hogan lets her know that obviously there's going to be a match for her when they get back from break. And it's for the number one contendership for the Knockouts Championship. There is our girl, ODB, and she's accompanied by her boo, her husband, Mr. EY. We had him back doing his thing, but he really wasn't doing, his thing when he was back on camera other than promoting his stuff and taking his pants off. Well, tonight he was back doing his thing, his EY thing in the ring, locking up with the referee, running around, just hooting and hollering. I was glad to see Eric Young back, and I thought it was a fantastic match by the girls tonight. But with Tara getting the I'm hurt, feigning an injury, roll-up victory, and becoming the number one contender.
Yeah, EY is always fun to watch, and I actually enjoyed watching the dynamic between EY and Tara because with this whole Tara Hollywood boyfriend angle, I've got my suspicions. And if you notice, there was a little bit of interaction between those two tonight, so just something to keep your eye on there.
9:18 p.m. Central Time, September 27th, 2012. Matthew Thomas calling out there. I wanted to timestamp that for you.
Yeah.
9:18
thank you.
Central Time, September 27th, 2012. Matthew Thomas called it first, folks. EY is the big Hollywood boyfriend. That's it. You nailed it right on the head. Ladies and gentlemen, he called it out, and it's right there. But anyways, like I said, Tara gets the pinfall victory and is now the number one contender. So, Bobby Roode talking to Austin Aries in the locker room, just your standard stuff. One of the things that's been bothering me about the episodes lately, and it's really been noticed a lot, especially when you see somebody like Sting and Hogan on the screen versus the other guys, the back and forth between film and video. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think it's just irritating. I'm having a hard time enjoying the program when I have to think, okay, well, if it's film, that means it's pre-recorded. If it's live, video, that means it's live. So, they've got somebody syncing all this stuff up, but I shouldn't have to think about it when I'm watching, should I?
Yeah, whether you consciously realize it or not, it's like you have to switch gears to a certain extent. And
Correct.
it's very distracting.
Yeah, so let's talk about the last elimination for the TV title championship match. You got Garrett, you got Joe, and you got Kenny. Hogan eventually will eliminate Garrett Bischoff. Now, the thing that everybody's pointing out and saying is, hey, you know what? When Garrett was asked to leave, did you see the look that he gave Hogan before he left? I want to say that we're reading too much into it, but it's still there. Matthew, what do you think about it?
Well, I noticed the look, and I noticed the length of time the camera stayed on him as well. So
Stayed on the look, correct.
Those two things really make you wonder if, you know, I actually had the concern he might interfere in the match tonight and try to interject himself in some capacity, which thankfully we didn't see. But I don't know, maybe we're not too far away from a heel Garrett Bischoff.
Really? Because Eric Watts 2012 wasn't entertaining the first time he came around in 1998, and it's just not entertaining now. And it's funny how, and everyone on Twitter also mentioned this too. A bunch of other people, just replying, why are they putting over Garrett Bischoff? Did you see? Jay Rosales 13 on Twitter says, did you see Garrett Bischoff's face after Hogan didn't pick him? Could this lead to a heel turn and have him be the heads of aces and eights? I'm struggling when I hear
if you want to turn him, that's one thing. But if you want to, I think if you do the head of aces and eights, I think that would piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, and not only that, and I'm going to add in Bahama Man 22 said, I almost gagged when Joe looked at Garrett and called him a great athlete. The utter respect that they're giving to Garrett Bischoff, like he's a cagey ring veteran, he's put in his time on the independents and, he's earned a spot. This guy, he's there because he has a last name that starts with a B, ends with an F, and we can't say it on TV, but it's, we can't say Eric Bischoff on TV, but it's Garrett Bischoff. Now, granted, he may be putting in the work. No disrespect to him and what he's doing for a living, but as far as, the guys having to put him over on camera,
right.
Does that make them sick? When they're sitting there talking about, how great he is? It's got to, make them turn.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I draw a lot of parallels when I'm looking at him, and just not parallels per se, but you compare him to how he has been brought in and put over, if you will, as compared to a Shane McMahon, who was never booked as this fierce, great up-and-coming competitor. He was, the booking was completely different, and, basically, he earned respect. Now, some of the stuff he did, jumping off of Titantrons, those big spots, that was a different animal altogether. But when I look at the way that he was kind of brought up and how he eventually got over as compared to the direction they have initially gone with basically just kind of rubbing Garrett Bischoff in your face, it's two completely different beasts right there.
Yeah, Shane McMahon was brought in with the Mean Street Posse. Pete Gas, Joey Abs, and the last one I forget. But he was brought in with guys that could wrestle, and he was snuck into matches. And he would get, coward-type wins. But then he started doing the stuff like jumping off the Titantron. He started doing stuff like Van Damme's Van Terminator, turnbuckle to turnbuckle. He started doing these stuff. He started, getting thrown around. He started, earning his spot, doing hardcore matches. So Shane McMahon kind of earned it, even though, the boys probably said, why is the owner's son on TV? That spot should be for me, blah, blah, blah. But, he kind of earned it as far as respect amongst the wrestling fan. So following up right after that, Samoa Joe and Mr. Anderson for the TV championship, a solid match, and your winner and new TV champion, Samoa Joe, he choked out Mr. Anderson cold. Here's the bone I have to pick with it. I understand there's a contract dispute with Devon. Devon's not signed. He may not ever show up in TNA again. But get your belt back from him, because the one you handed Taz tonight was not the TV championship. That looked like the World Heavyweight Championship to me.
Yeah, that's something you definitely got to have in your company there. You can't let your belt get away from you.
Right. Well, I understand things happen. Haku showed up at the Royal Rumble as a WCW Hardcore champion, Medusa showed up on Nitro as the WWE Women's Champion. Things do happen. But if you're expecting us to believe everything that's going on, and respect you as a company, go get your belt. Have him FedEx it. Do something. Get your belt back. He doesn't own it. It's a prop given to him by the company. Get your belt back. So notice Joe didn't. He did a pretty good job, I think, and I think Earl did a good job too. They didn't show it to the camera as much, but again, I'm a belt guy. I pick little holes, and that was the World Heavyweight Championship he was holding, or a facsimile of it. So, but again, a great match. I really thought everything went over well. Real quick, gut check competitor Evan Markopoulos, I think it was Markopoulos, got 1 yes and 2 no's. The yes came from Taz, which kind of crossed me up. I thought the no's, if they were coming from anybody, would be Taz and Bruce, and a yes from Al Snow. The no from Bruce I expected. The yes I didn't expect from Taz, but we got a no from Al Snow. I thought that was Al's kind of guy, especially with the promo. By the way, the best kick-out, quote-unquote, promo from any of these gut check competitors happened tonight. I thought it was a fantastic promo.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I really enjoyed the promo. Thought he did an excellent job with the delivery. Meathead, I keep coming back to kind of what I touched on last week. Like, when he's out there cutting the promo, no matter what they decide, how is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect TNA next week or next month or 2 months from now? It is the question, because like we talked about, you really haven't seen a lot of any of these guys on TV in the weeks since they had gotten through, with the exception of Joey Ryan, who, of course, didn't get through. But, yeah, I had a hard time really being invested in the outcome of this either way.
Right. And maybe I missed it, but where was Joey Ryan tonight?
Yeah. Nowhere to be seen. He was referenced in the backstage segment, but no Ryan appearance.
Nothing. If you're building towards a match at Bound for Glory, Joey Ryan and Al Snow, if that's what they're working towards, then why wasn't he there tonight? I mean, we've got 3 weeks. We were told 3 weeks away. We got 3 weeks to build this. Get Joey Ryan in there, and let's see him. Main event tonight was Bobby Roode and Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy and Austin Aries. And as we saw as we went off the air right before the Aces and Eights gimmick with the butter knife, Jeff Hardy stole the thunder from Austin Aries. Again, you got to do this kind of thing. I hate that it's come to this, in this time in wrestling, this era, where you have two single competitors that are going to build their way towards the main event at the major pay-per-view of the year, and you put them together in tag teams. I'm surprised they didn't become tag team champions tonight, because how many times have we seen that?
Quite a few.
Yeah, you gotta cause some friction, some heat. I like the old school Austin Rock, type thing where you keep them separate from each other. You don't let them touch each other until the end. Overall, again, I thought Impact was a little flat tonight. Maybe it's just that, Impact last week I thought was pretty entertaining. We did get a little progression with the Aces and Eights angle, but not much. And, how is it that Hogan and Sting happen to be standing by Aces and Eights van? Did they park it by them, knowing they would stand there, or did they stand there thinking, I do all my conversating by white vans?
That's not a very good rule of thumb.
Right, exactly. And don't they know all the employees if you're the general manager?
Yeah. And by the way, it's professional wrestling. You've got to suspend your belief. I get it,
Absolutely.
But are we getting a little bit over the top with all the hostage situations and the kidnappings, and we have one pay-per-view rather where Hogan's going to call the police in and lock down the Impact Zone, yet your two main guys in your company, Hogan and Sting, get kidnapped, and instead of alerting any authorities, we're just waiting on the video from the clubhouse. I get it, it's professional wrestling, but at the same time, there seems to be quite a bit of, it was definitely over the top tonight with the scene at the clubhouse. It's still building interest. It's still got my intrigue, but man, it's coming close, I think, at times to jumping the shark a little bit with some of these aces and eights
Ooh,
scenes.
Jumpin' the Shark. Now, that is a reference that everybody should know, but Jumpin' the Shark, do you know what show it came from first? Do you know where the term came from?
Absolutely. That originates back to Happy Days with Mr. Arthur Fonzarelli.
Yeah, and Arthur Fonzarelli. You know, Milwaukee is the home of the Bronze Fonz.
That is true.
Have you been to Milwaukee, Matthew? I haven't ever asked.
I have never made the pilgrimage myself.
I think you need to make the pilgrimage for Blizzard Brawl 8, which is coming up this December. You like that cheap plug right there.
I
Blizzard
think that
Brawl
sounds like
8
a fantastic idea.
We're trying to get everybody as far as the program, even though we don't all belong in the same city. We're trying to get everybody from this, program to get on down there. That'll be time for you and me to take pictures in front of the Bronze Fonz. I think that would be awesome. Put our thumbs up, say A, and do the whole thing. Folks, if you want to interact with the program tonight, we are going to be taking calls momentarily. The number to call in, 347-996-5278, or toll free at 877-317-9772. Matthew, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the phone zone, we're going to run down a bunch of other stuff here in the Pro Wrestling Report world. This is Sudden Impact Radio right here on Blog Talk Radio.
On sale right now at PWRshow.com. Get all the latest Pro Wrestling Report merchandise, including the Fella t-shirt, Yabba Dabba Bitch, and the ever-popular Milwaukee 316 on the front and on the back. All of the pay-per-view events that happen in Milwaukee. Get all this merchandise, including the tremendous t-shirt, and much, much more, available right now at PWRshow.com. PWRshow.com. All the latest PWR gear on sale right now.
You're listening to PWR Sudden Impact Radio, breaking down all that happened on tonight's Impact Wrestling broadcast.
Welcome back to Sudden Impact Radio on Blog Talk Radio. The man they call meathead, Matthew Thomas, joining me every week. Right after Impact goes off the air, we go on the air with Sudden Impact Radio. Sorry, I was about to belch there. I pounded a bunch of soda during a break, and I can feel it. It's right there. So, folks, if you hear me go silent for a minute, trust me, I just burnt my microphone because I was breathing fire, baby. Folks, if you want to interact with the program tonight, again, 347-996-5278 or toll free at 877-317-9772. Don't forget, we also got the Chatmosphere or the Chatosphere, depending on who you're asking, Damien and myself. And there's a few people in there. They've been chatting it up all throughout Impact. We have the chat room open and ready to go through the show, so if you want to chat about Impact while it's on the air, head on over to the chat room for the show. Let's take some calls. We're going to start off. You were introduced to him, I think, properly for the first time last week, Matthew. You've heard him before. We're going to go out to the 901 area code, and I believe that's Memphis, Tennessee. This is Curryhead. Go ahead, Curryhead.
What's up, meathead?
Say hello to Matthew.
How you doing, Matthew?
Curryhead, what's going on, my man?
Well, before I start, I at least got to say this about this program. It wasn't exciting as it was last week. Last week it was exciting because at least they went in and they gave at least stable details of what's going to at least happen at the pay-per-view. And this week this was better than the other show that happened a couple of days ago where you didn't know what was going to happen, but you found out towards the end that you're going to have a greenhorn that's going to probably be the main event. But at least this one, and I'm not going to, at least this one I can say this. You got your tag team belts established. You got your women's title established. I at least like to have Samoa Joe as the TV title. You know why, gentlemen? Because hopefully this will bring Joe back into the mix elevate him. Because think about it, for the past couple of years, Joe has been has been stagnant, has been not doing nothing. At least this TV title, hopefully this brings him and shows him how big of a killer he was, and I mean that in a good sense. Now let me get to this Aces and Eights. I got some problems with this. I hope, and my thing is this: I'm not going to speculate that if that leader is, I won't say who initials his EB, which I can't mention his name, is who I think it is. Why are they wasting my time with this thing? And oh, by the way, guys, I got one more thing to ask you. Clubhouse is the proper term for this. I know it sounds childish and stuff, and believe me, I grew up, and this is a shoot, and I'm being honest. I grew up with some family members in biker gangs. They are black biker gangs in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And they call them clubhouses. And also, other street gangs, they call them street gangs that I grew up with. They call them clubhouses and all that situation. So they are called clubhouses. But I want to know if this Aces and Eights thing, if it doesn't end with this, hopefully this Joseph Park Aces and Eights thing does end for Bound for Glory, then what is next? And I also got this James Storm and Robert Roode match. It was why they disappoint me with a gimmick on a gimmick on a gimmick, like you said. It was perfect the way it is. I might say he put in a cage match, maybe that's a little too gimmicky, but a street fight, we just saw that for free last week, and now you're gonna put this on for free. Now we're gonna pay to see something that we saw last week. That's like,
right.
I don't give away stuff for free. And believe me, gentlemen, I never give away anything for free. You can ask my employees that and my customers. I never give away anything for free. Would you give anything away? Only time I would give away anything for free is maybe it's the PWR team and Matthew. I got you. And by the way,
Matthew's part of the PWR team as well.
I like it.
Very thank you again. Yes.
Oh, by the way, I am coming to Blizzard Ball, so
okay.
I will be up there. I'll be up there. And by the way, I got to go now. I got to make that money.
Okay, all right, Curryhead, thank you for calling in. We need some rats around the ring, Matthew, so Curryhead is on his way to Blizzard Brawl 8, and he's going to take care of all the boys.
And he's bringing free samples, right?
Free samples. I know he said he never gives anything away. Sometimes you do have to give away. You got to sample that crack before you get hooked on it. So he brings up good wrestling points, though. Granted, they were mostly points we already made, but he brings up the point that the match that we're going to be paying for at the pay-per-view, the street fight, James Storm and Bobby Roode, we did just see that for free on TV last week. We didn't see, again, we talked about this last week. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show. We didn't see a real on-street fight because Bobby Roode was still in his street clothes, but, in his dress clothes. And I think we're going to see a lot more of, like I said, with the WWE, when they do street fights and they, it's something, Triple H, say Shawn Michaels, they're both in jeans, okay? They both are, dressed to get it on, like they're workmen. Taking care of that stuff. So, Curryhead makes good points. We always enjoy having him on the program. Let's take one more call here. How about the 973? Go ahead, 973. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Meathead. How you doing?
Hey. Announce yourself to the world. I believe this is Don from New York, correct?
Yeah, I was just a little bit bedazzled and awestruck by that work shoot that Curryhead just dropped. That was tremendous. Hashtag. Wow. A little bit.
See, I told you. I googled it and I wikied it. I knew it was called the Clubhouse. I knew it.
No, that was tremendous. But no, as far as TNA went tonight, I thought that the Tara Brooke Hogan backstage segment was off the charts. I mean, and then after Tara, totally disses Brooke with the cell phone thing, and then Brooke drops drops the hashtag newsflash on her, "You got a match tonight." That was fantastic. I really think Brooke, I think Brooke's a star. I was the biggest critic of Brooke, and I think, I'd like to see more of Brooke, less of Hulk, definitely. And you guys hit the nail on the head. The storylines are all over the map with TNA. And let's talk about the 800-pound pink gorilla in the room. And no, I'm not talking about one of David Hero's. I'm not talking about one of David Hero's girlfriends. I'm talking about the fact that TNA is focused on their little wrestling organization in England. They're focused on their wrestling organization in India. And let's be honest, this is basically, there is no connection. There is no connected dots. It's just, I hope there's a huge payoff with this Aces and Eights. They've got so much. I'm invested. You're invested. We're all invested in this. Now they've got Hulk and Sting. They've really upped the ante tonight. I'm dying to find out who's behind it. I hope it's Dixie. At TNA Dixie on Twitter. I mean, love Dixie. Huge fan of Dixie Carter. Love Dixie. But
where's she been lately?
I hope she's behind it.
She's the Peggy Bundy of Aces and Eights.
That's belittling her.
Oh, no, I don't mean it in Peggy Bundy way. I mean Katie Seagal from Sons of Anarchy. She's
No, Dixie's a whole other league. Dixie's a real deal.
Okay, I gotcha. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Well, the 2-1 Giants, but this isn't a football show, so.
The 2-1 Giants. And I will put this out there, and Matthew, I'm sorry to bore you with this stuff, but I have to choose between Eli Manning and Matt Ryan on a consistent basis every week, and I'll tell you what, your boy Eli is not performing to the level that he should be.
Well, you're just cranky because of the Monday Night Football game where you guys got robbed, that's all.
I'm over it. No, I'm over that. I'm over that.
Well, your record's not over.
And on that note, as we finish up with Don from New York, thank you, Don, for calling in. Don's always giving me a hard time, Matthew, about the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers, and I never thought it'd be a rivalry that would get as heated as it has over the last, 6-7 years now, with Brett Favre, throwing that really ridiculous interception that allowed the Giants to go on and beat the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl, with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers getting beat by the Giants last year in the playoffs, for the Giants to go on to win the Super Bowl again against the Patriots. There's a heated rivalry between the Giants and Packers.
Funny how that all plays out.
Yeah, it's not that funny. It's hurtful. And again, I love how everybody that listened to Monday Night Meltdown this past week was getting a huge kick out of Hero reacting to the game. I know Damien was upset with us because, dude, they called it a touchdown the moment my mic was turned on. What do you expect me to do? What would you expect me to do? Matthew, what's your team?
I'm more of a Carolina Panthers kind of guy.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. They do the best they can.
If that was the Panthers, they got robbed like that. Wouldn't you have reacted? That was an instant reaction. Yeah, that was a live reaction right there.
That was live broadcast journalism. That was capturing a moment in time. So you owed it to the listeners' meathead to document that.
And my professionalism as a broadcast journalist did prevent me from using the profanities I planned on using. I stayed professional, and I kept it on a educated and a highbrow level because, if there's anything that Meathead's been since the inception of the Pro Wrestling Report, it's highbrow.
Hashmark highbrow.
Hashmark highbrow. Yeah, we're going to have to get that trending. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to wrap this pig up and put a nice little bow on it. This is Sudden Impact Radio, right here on Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to PWR Sudden Impact Radio, breaking down all that happened on tonight's Impact Wrestling broadcast.
Once again, you're listening to Sudden Impact Radio on Blog Talk Radio, the man they call Meathead, Matthew Thomas, and oh boy, Brandon Whedon throwing the big pick. I'm salty, Matthew. I have the Ravens defense on my bench. Wah, wah. Pick 6 the other way, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Impact Wrestling. It is now time for what we like to call our Impact Final Thoughts. Matthew, this week on Sudden Impact Radio, we're talking about the Impact show that went off the air for tonight, September 27, 2012. And again, the big takeaway is going to be what happened with the Aces and Eights, the interaction between Hulk Hogan, the man they call Sting, who came back this week as well, and more interaction between them and the club called Aces and Eights. It's a club. It's a clubhouse. Again, you don't hear fear struck into the heart of somebody that says clubhouse, but that's how the biker world works. The guys hang out at a clubhouse, and it's as menacing as you can think. And these guys are not taking any prisoners, pun intended. No joking around, Matthew. What did you think about Aces and Eights this week, and the progression in the story between Hogan, Sting, Aces and Eights, and Joseph Parks?
It continues to build interest. I'm still waiting on that big reveal, that big payoff to see who these guys are. The scenes that took place at the clubhouse, a little bit over the top for me. I would honestly have preferred a little more of that to go down in the Impact Zone. It would have a little more of a realistic feel to me instead of these vignettes that are taking place with the kidnapped Sting and the kidnapped Hulk Hogan. That being said, it's further progressing the storyline. You still want to buy the pay-per-view and tune in each week to see who these guys are and where they go from there. At the end of the day, with Aces and Eights, I want to know who they are, and I want to be surprised. So if you can get past the quote-unquote cheese factor that you have at times with the Aces and Eights storyline, I think there's still interest there for most viewers.
Yep, exactly. And, we had a little bit more progression with James Storm and Bobby Roode. Not a ton between them as far as, their individual interaction, but we did learn that Hulk Hogan was going to make that a street fight again, this time for the pay-per-view and this time at Bound for Glory. And with a special enforcer this time, it'll be King Mo from the MMA world who's planning on doing both. He's going to get into a little mixed martial arts, and he plans on competing in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. What do you think of the interaction between King Mo and James Storm, Bobby Roode, in their gimmick street fight match?
A story that has been progressing for the last year with this Roode Storm feud. A match, when it was made last week, I was very excited about. A match that I don't necessarily feel needs a gimmick in the form of a street fight, and that I don't feel needs another gimmick in the form of a special enforcer. If you're going to bring King Mo in, I think he's best reserved for a match that does not already have the intrigue and the build that this match does.
Yeah. Those are the final thoughts of Impact this week. Again, make sure you're tuning in to Sudden Impact Radio every week, right after Impact goes off the air, Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Central, with Matthew Thomas, the real Matthew Thomas, on Twitter, and at WCW Meathead, the man they call Meathead, right here on Blog Talk Radio. Well, Matthew, those were our final thoughts of Impact. Again, don't forget Pro Wrestling Report this Saturday night. We've got big details on what's going to be happening as far as Sweet and Sexy for not Survivor Series, but we're talking WrestleMania 29. Big details going to be revealed on primetime this week. Make sure you're heading on over to pwrshow.com for those details after the show airs. But if you want those details right away, get on over, watch the program locally in the greater Milwaukee area. You can see it on My24 right after Ring of Honor Wrestling on, once again, My24. It's David Hero. It's Damian Nelson, also now joined in the event center by the resident Italian. His name is Frank Cosentino, looking like, and I saw this on Twitter, so I can't take credit for it, but I don't know who said it first. He's looking like little Mean Gene Okerlund in the, remember back in the days when you were watching Superstars on Saturday or Sunday mornings, or Wrestling Challenge? He's looking like Mean Gene back in the center, interviewing wrestlers. He's got another interview coming up this week. He had Armando Alejandro Estrada on the program, and we found a good spot for Frank.
Absolutely. A little retro feel there, too, with the Mean Gene throwback.
Yeah, nice. Also, don't forget the rest of the Pro Wrestling Report team will be heading out to Indianapolis for Survivor Series. I believe there might be a spot or two left. Get on over to PWRshow.com. Make sure you're checking that out if you want to hang out with them in the suite watching the Survivor Series, baby. Get on up there, and for those in the greater Indianapolis area or those who plan on making the trip up there, it's not that bad a drive from Milwaukee. It's also not that bad a drive from, say, the North Carolina, Charlotte, area, the Panthers area where, Matthew Thomas says he's from. So, maybe Matthew Thomas might show up. Maybe Frank Cosentino is going to be in Indianapolis. It was said that he's going to be there, so, different things that you can look into. I definitely want you guys to check out PWRshow.com. Don't forget, we're also available on iTunes and YouTube as well. Make sure you're commenting on it and make sure you're sharing that video. Matthew, before we go tonight, any last thoughts on Impact tonight and what we're going to see next week?
Yeah, I'm still curious is where does Bully Ray fall into the picture at Bound for Glory? When we went off the air last week, it looked like he may have secured him a spot in the title match, and now that doesn't seem to be the case at all. So very interested to see where he still falls into the card.
Right, and he doesn't have anything confirmed, and with 3 weeks to go to Bound for Glory, I would love to see him at least get announced into something, because if we get down to 2 weeks and he's not put in the main event, what is he going to do? Then again, Bully Ray has been very public, and it's been very wide known, is also in a contract situation as well. I believe Devon and Bully Ray had their contracts at the same time, so Bully Ray on TV, Devon not. I wonder how those contracts are going. And if Bully Ray doesn't sign with TNA, I think he's got a great chance to go back up to, quote-unquote, New York. And I think there's a heel champion right there. Seriously, the company champion, world heavyweight champion right there.
His stock has definitely risen over the last couple of years.
So proud of him, too. I mean, because if you think back to, when he first came in, we're talking 96, 97, 98, ECW, stuttering Bubba Ray Dudley, to, the man that put Trish Stratus and Mae Young through a table, to, the one that was running roughshod in the TLC matches with the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, to, coming over to TNA and still being kind of an afterthought, Team 3D, just doing the tag team thing, to where he is today. That man has put in his work. You can see it in his calves.
Absolutely,
put in his work,
and added calf development on top of that.
And not only can he do that, he spits up in the air, catches it in his hand, and licks it. Yum.
Coordination right there, my friend. Coordination.
You think it's an ode to? Do you think it's an ode back to Mr. Perfect, who used to catch his gum? He just kept, catches goobers.
Yeah, it could very well be. Which one's tougher, though? That's the question.
It depends on what kind of texture it's got.
The viscosity and whatnot, right?
Yeah, viscosity, exactly. Folks, viscosity, look it up. For Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. We've just been goofing off a minute. We appreciate you joining us on Sudden Impact Radio. Make sure you're tuning in Monday night for the Monday Night Meltdown. Right after Raw goes off the air, we go live with the Meltdown. Thank you. Good night. We'll see you next week.